The biggest plot twist in my life was revealed to me about 4 years ago. I was a 15-year-old who aspired to become a pediatrician and who had a keen interest in human anatomy and physiology. The particular unit that I was studying in my biology class was genetic disease, and after several lessons, I deemed it necessary that I bring the topic up with my parents to clear the air and determine whether there was something I should be aware of. One night, at the dinner table, I brought it up and asked my parents if they knew whether or not their families had a history of hereditary disease. My mother immediately replied, saying that I wouldn't have to worry about anything of the sort from her genes, and my father sat there silently eating his dinner. I assumed that my father was lost in his own world and simply didn't hear me. So I repeated the question and directed it at him. With food still in his mouth, he quickly shook his head and then proceeded to continue eating, almost as if the topic made him uncomfortable. His response caused me to worry that his family did in fact have a history of genetic disease, and I became slightly uneasy. My mother, who could probably read what I was thinking, chimed in and told me that I shouldn't worry about genetic disease. She insisted that I would be fine and that both sides of my family were fit as a fiddle. Later that night, my mother called me in her room. She sat on the edge of her bed, next to my father, her hands wrapped around his. I still remember how stern the looks on their faces were, the nervous tapping of my father's feet on the floor. I could sense that something was amiss, but I couldn't tell what it was. My mother then said that there was something that she had to tell me. My mind began exploring possible scenarios of how this would pan out. What could she possibly have to say? I knew that I couldn't have been adopted because I got told all the time that I looked like my mother and my younger siblings, and there is a picture of my heavily pregnant mother on our wedding day. Did my father have a history of genetic illness? Why do they both look so uneasy? My mother proceeded to tell me the truth about who I was. As it turned out, my father was not my biological father. When my mother was 21, she was married to another man. After 6 months of marriage, her husband ran off to be with another woman. She found out she was pregnant with me only a few weeks after he abandoned her. And when she got in contact with him to tell him the news, he told her he wanted nothing to do with her or the baby and requested a divorce. My father was a good friend of my mother who had been in love with her for some time. When she told him what had happened, he supported her and took care of her. He offered her his shoulder and support, and eventually she fell in love with him too. About a month before I was born, they got married. I always assumed that I was just an illegitimate child. When I was born, I was given the surname of my father, and he raised me as if I was his own. My parents told my grandparents that I would be raised thinking that he was my biological father and that they were not to tell me anything else. At first, I didn't know what to think. I was shocked. The blood running through my father and my sister wasn't the same blood that was running through my veins. My biological father was a runaway who wanted nothing to do with me. My parents had lied to me. My grandparents had lied to me. My life was a lie. I took in all this information, kissed my parents goodnight, and went to my room. My mind racing, I had no idea what to think. At first, I was annoyed at all the lying, and I wished that they would have told me sooner. I then wished that they had never told me, so that I would remain completely oblivious to the fact that my biological father didn't want me. After spending most of the night furiously recalling the nights Eve been thinking, the fact that I wasn't biologically his daughter, he never let that affect his love for me, and he never treated me any different from my younger sister. He was my dad, blood-related or not. This was the man who had raised me and who had been there for me right from the get-go. The next morning, I burst into the kitchen and embraced my parents in a tight hug. I told them that I was thankful for both of them and that I loved them both very much. So, while that was a huge shock to me and a massive plot twist, I learned to look past it the same way that they did, as far as anyone. So while that was a huge shock to me and a massive plot twist in my life, I learned to look past it, just as my parents once did. Blood may connect people by chance, but love is what binds them by choice. My father may not have given me life, but he gave me something far greater, a childhood filled with security, laughter, and unconditional love. And my mother, despite all the pain she endured, showed me what true strength and grace look like. That night, I went to bed feeling like my world had fallen apart, but by the next morning, I realized it had only expanded. I hadn't lost a father. I had discovered what it truly means to have one. From that day forward, I stopped seeing my story as one built on lies and started seeing it as one built on love, sacrifice, and second chances. Because family isn't always defined by DNA, it's defined by devotion. And in that sense, I've been blessed beyond measure.